Hi, my name is Derek Land. I'm making this video to convey how important having a positive mental attitude is to your success, not only in this company, but in life. Our minds are like this empty glass, okay? They'll pretty much hold anything that we pour into them. Now, I didn't come up with this idea. I read it from what's called The Compound Effect. It's a book by Darren Hardy. Absolutely mind-blowing. You know, my whole life, I've always been more of a visual learner, and what I want to do is with this experiment explain this idea. So our results in this company really depend upon what we see, what we hear, and definitely what we believe. So let's get to it here. So this cup represents somebody that I'm going to get into the business, and let's just call this cup Jamie. Okay, and for the last 2 weeks, I've been telling Jamie nothing but positive things about the company. Now, we have some clean water right here. So let's say that my positivity about the company is the clean water. As you see, when we pour in these ideas of how great the business is and what it's done for me, it's clear, and it's clean, and it's positive. And Jamie's really excited about the business, all right? Let's say that Jamie's been in this business for about 3 days now, and she's been talking to her friend Jill. And let's say Jill tries a sample, and Jamie says, Jill, I'll get back with you in about 3 days and see how you liked it. Well, 3 days later, Jamie calls Jill and says, hey Jill, how'd you like the sample? And Jill says, you know what, it was absolutely terrible. What did you give me? I never want to try it again. Well, that's really negative. So what happens? Let's say that all that positivity that I had talked to Jamie about dirties her mind process. It's a negative thought. And although this isn't terrible, it clouds her thought process. And I know this has nothing to do with the business, but let's say the next day Jamie's car breaks down. And when Jamie's car breaks down, she's just having a terrible day. And let's say that Jamie says, you know what? God, nothing ever goes right. Why does my car have to break down now? And we've all been there, and we all know the feeling. But still, what does that do? It's going to create more negativity. So let's say that Jamie's car breaking down affects her thoughts, even though it has nothing to do with the business. Now, what did that just do? It really clouded the water. And what does that do in her business? It creates a block. It creates more fogginess. It's like muddying up the water. Okay, it's going to be harder to have more positivity when her mind's clouded with all these things. Okay, so although that had nothing to do with her business, let's say 2 days later, she invites a ton of friends to her challenge party. And she's really stoked and she's really happy again, and everything's going good because everybody's going to come to this challenge party. Well, let's say 6:30 is rolling around and her challenge party is at 6:45 and 6:50 passes, 7 passes, and she's really upset. She's like, man, I told so many people about the challenge and no one came. Well, what that does is it creates a block. It creates her from succeeding. So when she thinks that way, it's going to create more negative things. Now, as we can see, it's really getting hard to see through the cup now. It's really hard for her to filter in anything positive. And let's just say, because what we see and what we hear has a lot to do with our attitude and our positivity. Let's say she's watching a lot of news, and every day she's listening to I don't know, the radio on her car to work. Well, she hears about the murders and about how the economy's taking a dive and everything. Well, what did that do? That just created a mess, okay? How are you ever supposed to create anything positive when we constantly have nasty mental thoughts or nasty water? Okay? So I want to do something really neat. I want to say, let's say instead she gives her friend the sample and her friend says, you know what, it's really nasty and I didn't like it. But let's say that Jamie's thought process is this. You know what, not everybody that I give a sample to is going to like it, but I know that there are going to be people out there who do. So she she puts that in her head, and although at the time it doesn't look like anything happened, now it just looks like a bigger mess. That's the thing that we got to understand. We got to have momentum. And let's say that when Jamie's car broke down, instead of saying, "Oh God, nothing goes right for me," let's say that Jamie said, "Wow, you know what? I'm glad my car broke down now," instead of when we're making the trip to California or to Texas to go to a seminar. And let's say that positivity of her car breaking down and being thankful flushes out some of that negative. And then we have the challenge party. The challenge party where no one showed up to come and check this out. Well, Jamie's really smart, so Jamie's going to say, "You know what, it's okay. I understand that not every challenge party I throw are people going to come to, but if I keep trying and keep working at this and have a true belief that this is going to work, that's really positive." Jamie knows that she's not going to give up. So what does that happen? What happens there? Jamie says, "I'm going to have more challenge parties. It's going to be okay. Not everybody's going to come." Now, as a result of just those three things, changing their thought process, we can already begin to see that the water's starting to clear up. Now, the really neat thing about this is when you start to clear your water, the mental thoughts become easier. It's not so hard to be positive because you're doing it over the course of time. Now, we realize that the water's still pretty cloudy here. Well, let's go to that very last thing. Let's say that instead of watching the news, or instead of listening to the violence, or instead of reading the tabloids, or Jersey Shore, or Teen Mom, we pick up a book like the Compound Effect, or the 12 Pillars, or How to Win Friends and Influence People. Well, by doing that, you're creating a ton of positivity. Okay, let's just do that. Let's say we replace Jersey Shore with an inspirational CD. Well, look what happens when we stop watching Jersey Shore. You know, our water gets a little clearer. And let's say that instead of reading the tabloids, we read How to Win Friends and Influence People. And let's say instead of reading the newspaper or watching TV Tonight, or even the food we're putting in our body's terrible. Let's say that we just eat something healthy, all right? Or have some zeal. And we have some zeal and we feel better. Well, if you take a look now, I know that's a ton of water, but we started out with completely black water where we could not see through. And as a byproduct of staying positive over the course of time, it creates more positivity. And I know that if we all just stay positive throughout all the negative things that we hear, we'll all be successful. And I want to really thank you guys for watching this video.